Be'lakor. Wasn't going to do a video about Be'lakor until the full book was out and I could look at the Chaos Space Marine rules and everything, do it all together. But we had a big drop of rules previews today, so I think there's pretty much everything you need to know about Be'lakor out now. I doubt there's much more in the book that's specifically Be'lakor. I think that we pretty much have everything now, so going to talk about it because there's a lot to talk about. I'll start with the stuff that we already knew, the sword profile. Basically before we had the sword profile, we knew that he had 6 attacks and that he was strength 8. And he could either make 2 hit rolls per attack, so he'd have 12 attacks at strength 8, AP minus 3, damage 1, or he could do the sort of smash attack, which is plus 4 strength to strength 12, AP minus 4 and damage D3 plus 3 with no invulnerable saves. And that's obviously what excited people or upset people. There's been some discussion since then about being broken, all this whingy Space Marine players saying it's OP and that sort of thing. Didn't care about Necron Catan doing this. Didn't care about the Nightbringer having this exact same rule, but even better because he also ignored the wound cap certain units have and feel no pain type rules. But now that it's Chaos getting some actual good rules for a change, now it's a problem, and now it's overpowered, and we need to do something about it. So, the sword made a bit of a stir. I think it's great. I do, in fairness. I whinged about the Necrons. I whinged about the Nightbringer. I think the Nightbringer is broken. I think the Nightbringer is ridiculous. And I do whinge about attacks that ignore invulnerable saves. So I do think that I'm not going to complain specifically about Be'lakor sword, but I do think that it is a bit of an issue in the game at the minute. I don't like things ignoring invulnerable saves personally. I do think that a Chaos Primarch should be able to beat the snot out of Guilliman, but I don't think it should happen effortlessly, like, oh, he just has no invulnerable saves. So, I know Be'lakor's not a Primarch, but you know what I mean. Mortarion, Magnus, those type level Primarchs, I do think they should be able to take out non-demonic, big characters like Ghazghkull or Calgar, because otherwise what's the point in being a demon Primarch, But, something as easily as this, if you did have Be'lakor, or indeed the Nightbringer, against, Calgar, he's got 9 wounds, sorry, not Calgar, Guilliman, he's got 9 wounds with, a 3+ invulnerable save, 2+ armor save, but, strength 12, you're hitting him on 2s, you're wounding him on 2s, you're AP minus 4, so he'd have like a 6+ armor save, I suppose, and then no invulnerable saves, and it's D3 plus 3, so, realistically, Be'lakor in this case would, need to get really 2 wounds through. Technically, that's a minimum of 8, so, if he rolled double 1s, he wouldn't do it. But, I think realistically, just getting 2 wounds through would do it, and that's the same for Nightbringer. I do, I'm not a big fan of these rules. I do think they could probably do without this invulnerable save ignoring stuff, but since it exists and other things have it, I'm not going to complain, about Chaos having it. So that's what it is. That's okay. But then we had, I feel like basically, the rest of his stats revealed today. We did, I suppose, already know about his survivability. 4+ invulnerable save, -1 to hit with no rerolls allowed, so that's actually pretty good. If you're putting Space Marines down to 4s to hit and they can't get their rerolls, that's good. And also -1 to wound against ranged attacks. Now that's really good too. Whether we're talking about, bolter spam or just a bit of protection from las cannons and things, getting wounded on 4s instead of 3s, it's all helpful. And you put that together, -1 to hit with no rerolls and -1 to wound, against a 4+ invulnerable save. He's pretty survivable. And he was impressive enough that time when that rule was released. Now we find out today, he just snuck in the text, didn't make a big deal out of it, but it's probably one of the biggest deals about him. He is only 16 wounds. He isn't 18 wounds like Mortarion and I think Magnus. So unlike those Demon Primarchs, he could actually benefit from obscuring. And this is incredible. There's a good amount of obscuring stuff on the table these days. Normally, if you're 18 wounds, you're great and clean one, or Mortarion, something you can't benefit from it. Be'lakor, not only is he -1 to hit, -1 to wound, can't be rolled against him, but he's also hideable. You can just put him behind an obscuring ruin or something 5 inches tall. And, brilliant. He's got fly, obviously, 12 inches, ignoring terrain. He can hop around. It's crazy. The fact that he has that survivability and you can actually hide him behind obscuring terrain, that's incredible. I think that alone, I mean, that's... I'm not gonna say it'll be top competitive or anything, because I'm sure that the top competitive spammers have got ways to deal with pretty much anything. But that to me seems like, I mean, I don't know if I'd call that like a fun game. I feel like I will use him, against my friends. I'll use him, but I don't think I'll use him in a... I don't think I'd be able to call it a friendly game, and I don't think I could blame them for taking the worst list they possibly could. Because honestly, 16 wounds, just hopping around, with the other survivable stuff that he has. It seems pretty crazy to me. It seems I might, I'm a bit worried about this. I might have to actually stop saying that Chaos never get good rules. I might actually have to stop saying that we get the shaft every time. So, it's a bit worrying. We might actually have a good unit here. Now, so that's really big, and toughness 7 too. That's fairly standard. I think toughness 7, you'd probably expect that. That's what we knew from last time. Plus the 16 wounds thing. Already, he sounds pretty incredible, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more. He's got some real good stuff that we're going to look at. So, firstly, he basically is a chapter master. He has captain, rerolls, Chaos Lord rerolls, and these are really interesting because these are a bit different. It's still a 6-inch aura where units can reroll ones to hit, but it just says non-vehicle units. Well, Demon and Disciple of Be'lakor, non-vehicle units. There's no mention of core, so this sounds like, I mean, I guess certain core units like Dreadnoughts it wouldn't affect, but it sounds like, we don't know what is core yet for Chaos Space Marines. We don't know. I'm going to assume Chaos Space Marines and Terminators maybe, but we don't know if Havocs or Bikers or Raptors or whatever are going to be core. Obliterators, that sort of thing, they won't be core, will they? But from the sounds of this, anything that's non-vehicle will get this reroll ones to hit aura. So Be'lakor might turn out to be one of the better generals for your Chaos Space Marines army, because I can think of probably quite a lot of non-core things that I'm going to end up wanting rerolls. If we get the new Codex, Havocs aren't core, so I don't get my rerolls from my Iron Warriors Havocs. They might just end up Disciples of Be'lakor because, I think this is really big. It's really interesting that it says non-vehicle rather than core. This is, potentially really big. I think that, it could be that this is the new way they're going to write it for the Chaos Commanders, for, the Lord of Chaos, to represent being a more a disorganized army, I suppose. Maybe they'll say, well, Chaos get to just reroll for anything that's not vehicles on their regular Chaos Lords too. I doubt it, personally. I feel like, core's coming in and it's going to be a thing for everybody. I feel like this is going to be unique to him, but we don't really know. But the point is, it's really good. So, the fact that it affects demons as well, I'm assuming that this whole Disciples of Be'lakor thing is going to give you options from the Chaos Space Marines Codex and Demons Codex, and that's why it's giving you this distinction. So, if you may be able to run Demons and Chaos Space Marines in the same army, that would be really cool if you can. I think a lot of people want to do that without having to mess around with battalions and losing their super doctrine and that sort of things. This could be the way that we get to do it. Then again, similar to the Death Guard when they had their Terminus Est Assault Force, this might give you a list of approved units to choose from. It might not give you the option of Obliterators or Havocs and things. It might tell you specifically that you can have Chaos Space Marines, Warp Talons, and Cultists. And so this whole affecting non-vehicle things would affect the Warp Talons, which probably aren't core choices, but also aren't units that you really want. So or Spawn, for example, they're probably not going to be core choices, but this could affect Spawn. It just depends whether we end up getting a approved list of units that we can actually choose, or if we've got free reign of the codexes and able to just choose anything. I feel like I can imagine there's going to be restrictions similar to the Terminus S thing where you couldn't take vehicles. But we'll see. Right now, this looks pretty good. Then he's also got the Shadow Lord rule, which is basically Chapter Master rerolls. I don't know if the Chapter Master rerolls is 9 inches or 6 inches, but this is 9 inches, and you just choose a unit and it can reroll hit rolls, shooting phase, combat phase until the next command phase. So that's really great. Again, it's making him seem like a great commander. He's definitely being put on the same level as Demon Primarchs and that sort of thing. So, pretty great. Then we had 3 psychic powers revealed from the new Noctis discipline. I'm going to assume there's 6 powers. It might just be the 3 though. And we had a stratagem. So let's do the stratagem. The stratagem is called the Blessing of Be'lakor. It's 2 command points, and basically a Disciple of Be'lakor unit doesn't say demons or Disciples of Be'lakor unit in the same way that the Dark Master rerolls thing does. But, you know, we don't really know how the force is going to be laid out yet. We don't know what Disciples is going to cover. But you choose a Disciples unit. Once it's failed a save, you change the damage characteristic to 0. So basically, if you fail a save and you're about to take D3 plus 3 damage, or D6 damage, or maybe a nasty flat 4 damage, flat 5 damage that you know is going to hurt you, or maybe it is only 1 damage but it's going to chip off your last wound and kill you, either way, you can just pay 2 command points and get rid of it, as long as Be'lakor is on the table. And as long as Be'lakor has the keyword Disciples of Be'lakor, you could use it on him. So maybe if somebody does actually manage to get through his, target him and get through his defensive abilities, and finally actually get past that 4+ new honourable save and do some damage, you could just play this and say, nope, you don't get your 6 damage through, because it is now reduced to 0. This is very powerful. I could see this being something I use every game. I think that it's going to come in really important. Whether it's to, again, snub somebody's real high damage attack, or just save somebody that was about to die on 1 wound. I don't think 2 CP is too expensive. 1 CP would have been too cheap. I think 3 CP would have been too expensive. One of those, put it as one of the stratagems that you never really use, apart from like a literal game deciding moment maybe. You're there on turn 5 and you really, want to keep somebody alive, but I think that putting it at 2 CP, it's pretty, it's good. You won't use it all the time, but you'll be able to use it enough so that it's actually, good for you. Really cool. I think, I can see people complaining about this, being a bit much. I mean, I've already seen a lot of people, just in the comments on the Games Workshop announcement today, complaining about, power creep and overpower and all this kind of stuff. He does seem pretty crazy. Like, I'm saying that as a Chaos player, he does seem pretty crazy. Don't know how many points he is yet, could change everything. He might be 700 points and just have nobody take him. But, as long as he's like a Demon Primarch level, sort of 400 points type deal, maybe 450 to 500, I think that he could be quite good. But yeah, there's certainly people who are complaining about the power creep and think that it's too good. I'm not sure I agree. Like I said earlier, as a Chaos player, I'm pretty salty about rules a lot of the time. I don't, especially if it's Marine players complaining, like honestly, Marine players, you're going to complain that, Chaos gets 1 good. It's like the Helldrake all over again. Marine players were just ruling 6th edition with their giant blobs of Centurions, ignoring armor saves, ignoring cover saves, re-rolling to hit and wound, all this kind of rubbish, wiping armies away with their Centurion blobs. And then Chaos got the Helldrake, which could flame behind it, and they whinged and whinged and whinged until Daddy Games Workshop looked after their favourite sons and nerfed it, and basically took away the one good thing that Chaos had in that trash codex at that trash time. Because Chaos can't have anything good, if it's too good, Marine players complain and get it taken away. So, there's a lot of salty Marine players, God forbid Chaos gets some good rules for a change. But at the same time, he does seem like he's maybe a bit too good at the minute. He does seem pretty good, mainly because normally you can look at a unit and find flaws, things that he has some good elements and he has some bad elements. This time, so like for Mortarion, for example, he's pretty good, but you can't hide him. The fact that you can actually hide Be'lakor and he has all this other good stuff, it's a struggle to see what his actual downside is, assuming that isn't represented by an extreme points cost or something. But as of the minute, it's definitely looking pretty good. Now, the 3 psychic powers are Void Slivers, which I think is trash. I wouldn't use it. This is kind of the rubbishy one that I wouldn't bother taking. 5+ to cast, so it's not hard to cast. You basically draw you choose a unit within 12 inches and you draw a line between that unit and Be'lakor, and that unit that you targeted and any other unit that is even closer and has the line go through it takes 1 mortal wound or D3 mortal wounds if they're 11+. Most likely they're not going to be 11+, because not much is. Even orcs, now they're going to toughness 5, they're probably going to be squads of 10, aren't they really? So basically what you're going to do is draw a line that's 12 inches long and do 1 mortal wounds to every unit that it passes over. If it was each model that it passed over, specifically each model, so you could target it and specifically get it zooming across a targeted amount of models. 1, you could get quite a few models potentially, and 2, you could target people. It's not, it's 1 per unit. And I just don't think I'm ever going to bother even wasting my time casting a psychic power that does 1 mortal wound to maybe 2. How many units are going to be within range of this 12-inch line? Maybe 1 and then 1 behind it, so we'll do like 2 mortal wounds maybe. I think it's rubbish. I wouldn't bother with this at all. Then you've got Betraying Shades, and this one's actually really good. Well, quite good. It's a 6+ to cast, has a range of 18 inches. You target an enemy unit and you choose up to 6 models, and you take the unmodified attacks characteristic of those 6 models. So if you had, let's say 6 Space Marines, they've got 2 attacks now, I think. Primaris, 2 attacks now, but obviously the champion has 3 attacks, so you'd say I'm going to choose 5 normal guys and the champion, so that's 13 attacks, because that would be 6 2 attacks each. They get 2 attacks each plus 3 for the champion. That'd be 13 attacks. And you roll that many dice, and any 6s are mortal wounds. And if the spell goes off on an 11+, it's on 5s. So if you take maybe orcs, I think orcs have got about 3 attacks base. About 3 attacks base modified to 4 with the chopper, I think. So maybe something like that. You could get potentially a decent handful of dice. If something has, you wouldn't bother doing this on something that's got 1 attack, I don't think. But if you can get a unit that's got 2 attacks base or even 3 attacks base, this could actually be pretty good, especially if it's a more elite unit. Like if you're targeting a unit of Ogrins or something, which do have 3 attacks on their profile, you choose 6 of them. 18 attacks. 19, I guess, if they have a champion of some kind. It's potentially a lot of dice you're rolling. Only fishing on 6s, probably not going to get an 11+. But I think that it's still fairly good as far as considering there are other powers out there, like the 1,000 Suns get, where you just roll 9 dice and fish for 6s. I think that this is comparatively better, especially because that one takes like an 8 to cast or something. I think there's worse powers out there. I think this is potentially going to be fairly good. And then the last one you've got is Wreathed in Shades, and this is an 11. This is a 7+. You choose a friendly Disciples of Be'lakor unit within 12 inches, and that unit can't be targeted unless it's the closest eligible unit or within 12 inches. So it's basically Cloud of Flies. Now, this is really good for a psychic power. This is exactly the kind of actually useful psychic power that I would want, rather than something like Void Slivers. To be able to just choose a unit, it's fairly reliable, 7+2. Choose a unit within 12 inches, and they can't be targeted unless they're the closest eligible unit or within 12 inches of the unit that wants to fire at them. Remembering it's eligible rather than visible is important. Potentially if you're the closest eligible unit to a unit that ignores line of sight, they can still shoot you even if there's other stuff, because you'd be eligible rather than visible particularly. So I guess keep an eye on that sort of thing, but it's still really good. There's not going to be many ignores line of sight weapons around probably. So I think this is definitely a really useful power. You're going to cast this on, again, depending what you're allowed. We don't know what you're allowed in the army list. It could be fairly limiting, but assuming you could have units like Havocs, Obliterators, Terminators, considering that doing this on Blightlord Terminators, for example, would cost you 4 command points, maybe even 6. Is it 6 or 4? I'm not sure. It's a lot of CP anyway. To just be able to cast this on a 7+, this is really good. You can obviously, every time you cast Psychic Power, if you want to, you can make sure that you're outside of deny range. You don't have to cast this within 24 inches. So, potentially, as long as you don't fail the 7+, it's a real good chance this is going to go off for you, and to be able to just choose a unit of, again, Havocs, Obliterators, you know, anything like that, this is going to be pretty crazy, I think. Just to say, oh, I've got this Dinesh unit of Obliterators with, you know, Endless Cacophony. They're going to shoot you twice and then sit there and you can't shoot them back. Or I've got this unit of Las Cannon Havocs or Chain Cannon Havocs, again, shoot you twice, Marcus Dinesh, can't shoot them back. Yeah, this is pretty great. This is really good. It's one of the better psychic powers out there, I think. This is incredible psychic power. I'd certainly rather have this in my Death Guard than have to spend, you know, the 4 command points or whatever it is to hide some Terminators. So, yeah, that's the extent of the rules that we had come out today and last time. Be'lakor is shaping up to look pretty epic. Again, we don't know how many points he costs, and we don't know the restrictions on his Disciples of Be'lakor army, but so far, you know, as far as we've seen, this is looking really good. And I may even get excited. You know, I know that a lot of the time when we have a new character, they end up being absolute, you know, just a waste of time, like Harkon World Claimer. You know, when they previewed that guy, I thought, man, that's a cool looking model. And then they just forget to give him rules, you know. That happens with Chaos a lot, unfortunately, but I think this time we're actually going to get a pretty good unit. And as long as he isn't 800 points or something crazy, this is shaping up to be really good. I'm definitely excited about this release. I'm a bit nervous, you know. I've got to play my friends with this. If it's too good, it might cause some issues, but I'm definitely, you know, don't want to say I'm definitely getting this book, because of course I'll see it previewed on other people's channels first, and I'll decide then, depending on the rest of the rules for the Chaos Space Marines, because really that's still the main thing I'm going to be interested in, the actual Chaos Space Marines rules. You know, just Be'lakor. If it's just Be'lakor that's good, I won't buy the book. I'll just get the rules, you know, from somewhere else. But if if the actual Chaos Space Marine rules are good too, then I probably will get the book. Like I didn't for the Death Guard, because I just thought their rules were rubbish, to be honest. The Codex, as good as it is, I didn't feel like that book added anything to the Death Guard, so I didn't get it. But this one, you know, if the rest of the Chaos Space Marine rules, whatever they might be, are as good as Be'lakor seems to be, and it could be a problem. Could be a problem. Until then, I think I'm, you know, just going to wait quietly. I'm not gonna make too many judgments just yet. I'm not going to argue with anybody. I'll just, you know, keep watching salty Space Marine players arguing about how broken and overpowered Be'lakor is, and how the game is being destroyed by power creep that only matters when it's not their codex. And, you know, I hope this video's been somewhat interesting or useful or helpful, and I will try to get back to making some more videos soon. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.